First of all, hello, alumni, whoever's going to be watching this. We're going to be looking at a Nesiva Shalom together. Everyone knows the famous paragraph in the Haggadah, Avadim Hayinu, and the paragraph of Avadim Hayinu finishes off by saying that it's whoever the more you speak about Yetzias Mitzrayim, Harezeh Meshubach, the more praiseworthy you are. So on the night of Pesach, there is a mitzvah not only to tell over the story of Yetzias Mitzrayim, but we say that the more you do it, the more praiseworthy you are. Meshubach, like Aleinu l'shabeach, Yishtabach Shimcha, Meshubach, you are praiseworthy. So the Nesiva Shalom asks a couple of questions on this. The first question he asks is, why are you praiseworthy for doing, like, the more you do it? We don't see that by other mitzvahs. He gives the example as follows. On Rosh Hashanah, there is a mitzvah to hear 100 blasts. You have to hear the shofar. So if you spend the entire day of Rosh Hashanah listening to the shofar, you're not like a big tzaddik because you kept on doing it the whole day. We don't say, oh, harezeh mishubach. If you're sitting there and like walking with the lulav and esrog the entire day of Sukkot, we don't say harezeh mishubach. We don't say, oh my gosh, you're a very praiseworthy person. You do the mitzvah of lulav and esrog, beautiful, then you put it down. We don't say, oh, the more you do it, the more mishubach you are. Maybe say mishugat. But when we come to Yetzias Mitzrayim, on the night of Pesach, the more you do it, harezeh mishubach. That's question number one. Why? Question number two, the Nesiva Shalom asks, is it's interesting. There's a mitzvah that you have to remember Yetzias Mitzrayim every day. Kol yemei chayecha. And how do we remember Yetzias Mitzrayim every day? In davening. Where in davening? Kriya Shema. We say the last paragraph of Kriya Shema, so you can remember that HaKadosh Baruch Hu took us out of Mitzrayim. Happens to be, it's at the end of the paragraph of Tzitzis as well, so we throw in the whole thing of Tzitzis. But we end that paragraph by saying, HaKadosh Baruch Hu took us out of Mitzrayim. By doing that, you're remembering that Hashem took us out of Mitzrayim. So if the question is, harezeh mishubach, so why don't we say every day harezeh mishubach? We say you have to remember Yetzias Mitzrayim every day. But we don't say the more you remember it every day, harezeh mishubach. You do it once in the morning, you do it once at night time, beautiful. You've done your chiyuvim, you've done your obligation of remembering Yetzias Mitzrayim. But the night of Pesach, harezeh mishubach. That's question number two. Sort of the same question, but a similar vein. The third question that the Nesiva Shalom asks is as follows. He brings down a famous Rambam. And the Rambam writes that it's a mitzvah for a father to tell his son, his daughter, the story of Yetzias Mitzrayim. So according to the Rambam, it's a mitzvah for the father to tell the son. Says the Nesiva Shalom, I don't understand this Rambam. What about if the son knows more Torah than the father? So then the son should tell the father the story of Yetzias Mitzrayim. I mean, I'm going to be sitting at my Seder, and I'm going to say, guys, I want to tell you the story of Yetzias Mitzrayim, and Kadosh Baruch Hu went, and he did this plague. And all of a sudden, I'm going to say, and he did it this way. And then my son's going to look at me probably and say, well, what do you mean he did it that way, Dad? Didn't you see the Tosfos in Sachim? There's a whole machlokes, Tosfos, Ritva, Rashba, exactly how that plague turned itself out. And I'm like, oh, I don't know. And all of a sudden, my son's going to say, didn't you see the Gemara and Rashi, Tosfos, and Abai and Rashi? So like, okay, you know, Baruch Hashem, look how much Torah you know. You tell me the story of Yetzias Mitzrayim. You know the Makorah better than I do, it seems. But according to the Rambam, it doesn't work that way. It's a mitzvah to tell over to your children the story of Yetzias Mitzrayim. Why? What about if my kid knows more? What about if I told my kid last year, he knows everything. Like, what am I adding this year? That's his question. Why is it dafka a mitzvah for the parent to give it over to the child? Even in such situations where the child knows more than the parent. So this is where the Chassidus part comes in from the Nesiva Shalom. It is in the Nesiva Shalom Shiur, it's a Chassidus Shiur. Yeah. So we say as follows. Every yontif, in a weird type of way, you're getting judged on something. Rosh Hashanah, you're actually getting judged on, are you going to die this year? How much money you're going to have this year? That's Rosh Hashanah. Shavuos, you're going to get judged on your Kabbalah Torah. The way you act on Shavuos, Hashem is like judging us. The way you're acting on Shavuos, I'm going to judge you for the next year on your own Kibbul HaTorah. Sukkot, they say, is Man Simchaseinu. How much Simcha do you show in the Chag of Sukkot? You get judged in your Simcha for that year. Pesach, says in the Siva Shalom, we get judged on our Emunas Hashem. That's what Pesach is. Pesach is the one night of the year there's a skula for Emunas Hashem. So it's very interesting. Pesach is the night of Emunas Hashem. So how does that work? Like, why is it dafka that Pesach is the night of Emunas Hashem? So I heard over recently, I'm telling this to the alumni, lots of the girls over here who are sitting, we can do like you want to do a quick pan? No? There are people here, I'm not talking to myself, even though you are here, the alumni. But we all heard a beautiful drasha from the Kaliver Rebbe this week. We have the chus of having a big Rebbe come to Midrash Moriah. And the Kaliver Rebbe said over as follows. I'll just tell you over the Dvar Torah that he said. And the Kaliver Rebbe said, it's interesting. Pesach started in a very dangerous situation for the Jewish people. Because Baruch Hu says, take the Avodah Zarah, slaughter it, put the the blood of the Avodah Zarah on your doorpost, and then have a Seder. And then eat, roast and eat it. And how do I want you to eat it? 2, 3 families, everyone get together and go get together and have that Korban Pesach. Says the Kaliver Rebbe, he goes, it's really interesting. It was very dangerous to start it off that way. But can you imagine, if I would have been a Jew there, I would have thought, oh my gosh, here I am, I'm flaunting it in their face, I'm taking their Avodah Zarah, shechting it, I think they'll all kill me. And not only that, they know I'm going to be at home that night. They know exactly where I am. But nevertheless, the Emunas Hashem was that in the end, we did it, and whoever did it, nothing happened to them. Every home that didn't have the Dam Pesach or the Korban Pesach on their doorpost, not one home, not every home sustained an injury, at least one death of somebody who did not have it. So that's the way of Emunas Hashem. But the Kaliver Rebbe, and that's true, that's Emunah Pshuta, simple Emunah, we have to listen to a Kodesh Baruch Hu. But interestingly enough, the first thing we do at the Pesach Seder is after we make Kiddush, we dunk the karpas. And the reason we dunk the karpas is because generally speaking, on Shabbos and Yontif, after I make Kiddush, the first thing I do is I wash for bread. And I have my food on Shabbos and Yontif. So here we have to do something that's so out of the ordinary that as opposed to going to my food, I'm going to take a piece of tomato. I personally use potato. I'm going to take a piece of potato, dunk it in salt water, and I'm going to eat a piece of potato. My kids are going to say, Daddy, and every night we don't even dunk once. But tonight we're going to be dunking twice. Why do my kids say that? So the Kaliver Rebbe said that it's true. Our initial starting off point is Emunas Hashem, pure Emunah. But then the first thing we do is ask questions. And he said a beautiful idea that when you ask a question and you start learning, then you have Avodas Hashem b'simcha. That's what's going to bring simcha in your Avodas Hashem, when you understand what you're doing. We're doing something because we had so many wise people before us doing it. And the trick, there's not supposed to be such a thing as a layman Jew. Everyone's supposed to be learning Torah. Says in the Siva Shalom, there's even more of a point of learning Torah. When you hear Torah from your forefather, from the person who came before you, and they're telling you, I heard that Torah from the person who came before me, and I heard that Torah from the person who came before me, so then all of a sudden, not only are you learning Torah, and you're understanding what you're doing, but you're working on your Emunas Hashem as well. Leil HaSeder is the one night, the one time, there's always a mitzvah to teach Torah, but there's one night, v'higadato levincha. And the more you tell your child about the story of Yetzias Mitzrayim, especially on Pesach, why especially that night? The matzah is sitting in front of you, the maror is sitting in front of you. This was the actual night that we did it in the calendar year. Shechiyanu v'kimanu v'giyanu lezman hazeh. This time period in the calendar is when we actually did it. Says the Haggadah, v'kol amar b'Yetzias Mitzrayim, harezim meshubach. And not only that, you're going to ingrain the ideas of Emunas Hashem into yourself, into your family. And therefore, we're going to get judged of the Emunas Hashem on the night of Pesach. Leil HaSeder is a judgment day also of Emunas Hashem. And that's dafka why the father has to tell the child and not the child tell the parent. Even if the child knows more. Because my whole Masorah is based on the fact that I heard it from my father, who heard it from here, and heard it from then, and heard it from there. And the whole Masorah of Pesach, of Seder, is a question-answer, question-answer. We want you to know what you're doing. We want you to understand what you're doing. When you understand what you're doing, that's such a beautiful word that the Kalav Rebbe said. When you understand what you're doing, and you're learning, then you get you don't get a greater simcha than that. And our whole avodas Hashem is supposed to be done in simcha. So there's true nasa and nishma. You want to first do nasa, but then the nishma is what brings you to simcha. It's a very nice, beautiful idea. And the Sivas Shalom doesn't say that exactly, but the Sivas Shalom does say that based on the fact that you heard it from your father, who heard it from his father, who heard it from his father, so then it ingrains this idea of emunas Hashem. So I'll just give you one mashal that I've given over many, many times. My grandfather, Alav Shalom, was born in the year 1900. 1900. My father, Alav Shalom, was born in the year 1933. 1933. I was born in the year but that means that sometime in the 1900s, from the 1900s to the year 2000 that we're in right now, there were three learners: my grandfather, my father, and me. So this three learners, myself, my father, and my grandfather, we're sitting at one table, and we're commemorating Pesach. Now, in the 1800s, there was also three generations of learners: my great-grandfather, my great-great-grandfather, and my great-great-great-grandfather. Now, and that represents the 1800s. In the 1700s, there was also three generations of learners: my great-great-great-grandfather, boom, boom, boom. Now, it's interesting, if you think about it, going to a restaurant, all you need is 33 tables, 3 people at each table. Each table represents 1 century. It's 33 tables till we get to Yetzias Mitzrayim. My grandfather, I don't even know if he realized what he said to me, but I still remember it. I must have been around 7 years old, and my grandfather at my Pesach Seder calls me over, and he says to me, I want to let you know one thing. I remember when I was 7, I was sitting at my Zaidi Seder. And that's what he said to me. I don't even think he realized the ramifications of that statement. But if you think about it, that means when he was 7 years old, he was sitting at his grandfather's Seder. His grandfather was probably born in 1833. And now, all of a sudden, his grandfather probably said the same thing. When I was 7 years old, I was sitting at my Zaidi Seder. And you have a chain that goes right back to Har Sinai of V'higada Talavincha, telling over to your children. And that's the greatest idea that we have of emunas Hashem, that everybody has this chain going back to Har Sinai. And the more you talk about the event on the night of Pesach, so the more you work on your emunas Hashem. The more you work on your emunas Hashem, says the Haggadah, Harei Zeh Mishubach. The more praiseworthy you are, this is the main night of emunas Hashem. And we should all be zoche to an aliyah in our emunas Hashem, and we should all have a wonderful, wonderful Pesach. Thank you very much. Enjoy.